Hello there, a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam on Channels Television. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, the nation's security architecture was once again tested as bandits masterminded the deadliest train attack Nigeria has seen in recent times, which left in its trail tears. Tears over loved ones who lost their lives and those whose whereabouts are yet to be ascertained. Today on the program, we will take a look at ways further attacks can be quickly averted and how measures can be put in place to ensure it doesn't become a recurring decimal. But let's first take a look at what got Nigerians on the social cyberspace talking or tweeting in the past week. Nigerians are still mourning a Nigerian doctor who tweeted from the train that was attacked by bandits and later died after she had tweeted asking for help and prayers. Unsavory comments had trailed her tweet, but were later deleted after the news of her death filtered, and authors of such tweets were derided by well-meaning Nigerians. Passengers died while some were kidnapped after bandits attacked a train between Abuja and Kaduna. The train track was mined, forcing the train carrying 970 passengers to a stop on Monday evening. Gunmen subsequently surrounded the carriages and opened fire. An unknown number of passengers were abducted from the train, which before now was considered the safest way to get between Abuja and Kaduna. Well, there you go. Those were some of the trends that made the major headlines in the social cyberspace in the past week. As we kick-start the conversation, you should also know that you can be a part of the conversation. Just join us, tweet at us at Channels TV, at Channels Beam, at Victor_MBIDI. You can use the hashtags Kaduna Train Attack, Bandit Attacks, as well as Channels Beam. Well, joining us to look at today's topic, we have Makari Confidence. He is a geopolitical and security analyst with SBM Intelligence in Lagos. He joins us right here in the studio. It's a pleasure to have you, joining me from my far right. And just right beside me is Nnamdi Chive. He is the managing partner at Chive GPS, a security intelligence and conflict resolution company. Thanks as well for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And joining us via Zoom is Ayodele Adio. He is the managing editor at the Avalon Daily. Ayodele, it's a pleasure to have you on the program today as well.
Thank you for having me, Victor.
Sure, you're welcome. So, kickstart the conversation for us, Nnamdi. So much has been said. The government has made their remark, the security apparatus has made their remark, Nigerians are also commenting in regards to the train attacks. But what can be done, moving forward to ensure we don't have these kind of attacks again?
Well, the problem we have is lack of action in respect of trying to go after these terrorists and bandits or whoever they might be. So much has been said about intelligence and not working on this intelligence that has been gathered over the years. The governor of Kaduna State has said much. One need to buttress on that. He has said much about the security agencies knowing where these terrorists are, and but what is lacking is actual offensive against these terrorists. So in my view, I think if the commander-in-chief gives the security services like a 6-month deadline and fund an offensive operation against these terrorists, they can be eliminated within 6 months. They are in the bush, although the forest where they are cuts across 5 states within the Northwest. So it's an operation. The military, our armed forces are used to this kind of battle. So I believe what we need to do is to launch an offensive. We know their camps. We know through geolocation intelligence, phone conversations, and other technical assets that we have. We know we can locate them and try to. And also, looking at our border security is a problem because some of the analyses we've been seeing suggest that majority of these bandits come from the neighboring countries, because you have Niger bordering most of the states in the northwest, and you have other foreign citizens coming from Mali and the rest of them, teaming up with the local collaborators in Nigeria to launch some of these attacks. So we need to also be mindful of the border security. The president of Niger also suggested setting up a multinational joint task force in that axis.
Isn't one in
the northeast, but he's talking about a kind of international joint task force in the northwest, because the Niger Republic borders some of the states in the northwest. So we should have a force that can stop the incursions from the other countries.
From that part of the...
Because our borders are too porous. And
so I'll come back to you, and especially on the geolocation stuff, because we understand people are being contacted already, and they're asking for ransom. But I mean, going by his own submission, he has listed, the fact that an offensive can be, taken against the bandits, and also the fact that our borders need to be properly manned. Idris Deby, of course, came to see the president last week. So they're talking about this multinational joint task force. We already have one in the northeast. Yeah. How effective has that one been? And what's the possibility that if another one is formed, to cover the northwest, that we're going to get the desired results?
In all of these things that I've said so far, there's a key ingredient missing, which is political will. The MNJTF story, it actually went the same way as several other operations, internal and external operations in Nigeria have gone. The MNJTF was set up in 2013, 2014, just alongside the G5 Sahel group, But over the years, what you've seen is that they peaked around 2015, 2016, and suddenly they started resting on their oars. What happened was that the terrorist groups started looking for new locations within Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. Before Idris Deby died, he launched a few weeks offensive, about 4 weeks, which he personally spearheaded, pushed Boko Haram terrorists out of southern Chad and back into Nigeria. But when he was pulling out, there was something very instructive he said. It was like, he's pulling Chad out of the operation because he does not see sincerity on the Nigerian side, on the side of the Nigerian government. Almost as soon as he said that, the Nigerian military stood up and showed a little bit of action, but that action was not even enough to be sustained. So the point I'm making basically is this: you can have all the multinational joint task forces in the world, but if the Nigerian government in itself shares a larger portion of these attacks, are not even willing or are not even interested in curtailing this problem head-on, you're going to keep having multiple multinational joint task forces which are not going to achieve anything. So currently we have a multinational joint task force in the northeast fighting Boko Haram, which has been dormant for years. And then if you're going to create another multinational joint task force in the northwest, I am going to predict that if we see this kind of inaction from the Nigerian government with regards to the northeast going the same way as the northwest, it's not really going to achieve anything, because even if our neighbors put in the work, we still have a whole lot of work to do from our side. And given the response of the Nigerian government so far, I don't really think it has that much. It really puts that as a priority for now.
So I mean, I was speaking about the visit to the president last week by the Nigerian president.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at the borders and all of that, how will that collaboration come in?
First of all, we need to take note of where our borders start and where it stops. This is not just enough to put signposts, okay, Nigeria starts from here or Niger starts from here. And going forward, talking about border security, it takes a lot to man borders. Currently, from the Northwest Corridor, our borders are practically non-existent. Middle of last year, something happened which, of course, escaped the news. Terrorists from Niger Republic abducted an American national, brought him into Nigeria, into Sokoto State for safekeeping. American SEALs came in, rescued him, killed all the terrorists, and left without actually informing the Nigerian government. The Nigerian government got to know 2 weeks after the operation. So since then, there has been several incursions from Niger Republic into Libya, in the border around Katsina State. So several incursions have been going on. Bandits have been using that particular area as staging area to launch attacks without any response, which the frequency of attacks is to tell you that there's actually no border security around that area. So if we want to have border control, we are going to have to recalibrate our efforts. If the target is to maintain border security, it's going to take a lot. And when you're done with the operations there, put structures in place to make sure that the bandits do not return. And it's going to take a lot of collaboration, active intelligence sharing, collaboration within Nigeria, Niger, and the countries affected. So you're talking about Burkina Faso, you're talking about Mali, because there's a tiny strip of land around that area that leads far into Algeria from Agadez region, because that area needs to be also secure. So if you don't secure that area, you're going to be seeing a lot of collaboration between Islamic States in the Greater Sahara and then Boko Haram allied terror groups around the northwest too.
Okay, so let me quickly just bring in Ayodele into the conversation now. Ayodele is joining us via Zoom from Lagos. Ayodele, so I mean, in all of this, so much has been said. You know what the government needs to do, and if it means forming those alliances, if it means putting things or having the political will. But one of the things that has been brought up is the fact that mercenaries want to be invited into this fight. Do you think this will bring an end to the incursions by these bandits?
Well, I'm not sure if mercenaries will bring an end if you still lack the political will to see this through to a very decisive end. Because the problem here is a lack of political will to see an end to banditry and insecurity in the northwestern part of the country. There has been this laissez-faire attitude towards tackling these issues decisively. And if you listened to the conversation that happened right after the train was attacked in Kaduna, you heard the Minister of Transportation talk about a particular equipment that could have been bought that would have prevented that incident from occurring, that was turned down in the Federal Executive Council. Later that evening, you heard the governor of Kaduna State talk about the fact that he had said specifically that the train should not operate after 5 o'clock in the evening. All of these point to one direction, that there is a lack of coherence, there is very little intelligence sharing, and there's a lack of will to see this thing through decisively. So and until we get that political will right, until the leadership at the top is ready to marshal all its resources and to get everybody in line and to punish those culprits, we are not going to make any significant progress. For me, I think that we have enough experts in this country, in and outside the military, who have preferred as much solution as there is possible. We know that there is our borders are porous. In fact, the government continues to mount that our borders are porous, as if Ayo or McHenry is supposed to do something about it and not the government itself. It looks like we have surrendered these borders to bandits and terrorists without having a clear plan on how we are going to secure these borders, or even have as much as a budget to secure these borders and present that to the Nigerian people through the parliament. We don't seem to have a plan for that. So if you don't have a plan to police your borders, you lack the will to motivate your troops to get the job done in the Northwest. There doesn't seem to be a continental or a regional effort, whether diplomatic or militarily, to at least rally countries in the Sahel, where these terrorists have been operating for a very long time.
Are you also advocating for the MNJTF in the Northwest region?
Again, like Confidence rightfully said, it is not about setting up the MMJTF in the Northwestern region. It is the ability to see it through to a logical conclusion. If you set it up, where is the will, the support structure, the resources to ensure that it succeeds? Where are the targets given to that group? What are the milestones? How are we going to track progress? How are we going to know whether we are not meeting our objectives or not? These are the things that really need to be in place before such multilateral joint operations can be effective in the Northwest. Otherwise, we're just going to be singing. We're just going to be singing to the choir, and at the end of the day, we're not going to make any reasonable progress in tackling with insecurity. While lives continue to be lost avoidably every single day in northern Nigeria, people continue to be killed in their tens and their hundreds. And all we simply do is to extend condolences to these people when people in charge in government are supposed to be protecting those lives. It's embarrassing, and we should continue to speak out until those in authorities do their jobs and do them very well.
All right, let me just hold you there for a bit. We need to take a quick break, and of course, when we come back, we'll get to hear more from all of our panelists who are joining us today on the program. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have with us our panelists in the Lagos studio as well as via Zoom. But we're going to go back now. Let me come back now to the whole Kaduna train attacks. People are being reached out to. You know, they're being called, asking them for ransom and all of that. Now, with GPS, how do we deploy our technology to track these calls and track the bandits?
You see, the Nigerian government has a lot of assets when it comes to technical intelligence or anything that has to do with communications. And I do not think they are incapacitated in terms of trying to know the locations of these persons. I know for a fact that some of these calls can be monitored, the location of where these calls are pinning, you know, through a simple checks through the masts, the telecommunication masts around the areas. There are technology that can pin and geolocate where these people are. So, but the question you have to ask is, if we get to know the location, how do we conduct a rescue operation? Do we negotiate to pay a ransom, or do we send in special forces to conduct an operation that can rescue these people? Because for me, you know, people will talk about the political will, which is good. We can demand answers from the government, but the Nigerian government, if they really want to go after these terrorists or bandits, they have the capacity. And people are calling for mercenaries, and I don't think the mercenaries can solve this problem, because we have all kinds of people that have been trained both abroad in terms of special forces, special capabilities. And we know that if we set out to deploy soldiers, to put the resources behind them, the assets that they need, they can actually, you know, be able to resolve this problem. Another challenge that we are having within that area is due to just like we keep referring to Sambisa. You know, Sambisa is a large entity on its own that cuts across 6 states in the north. You know, so this forest that these terrorists are operating is also large. So it has to be a comprehensive action plan to deploy intelligence and to deploy men to be able to rescue these people, either through negotiations or through any force of action. Then when you are able to, you know, get your people to safety, you can now look at the long-term plan of launching an offensive. It's only an offensive operation over a sustained period of time that can be able to, you know, liquidate these people, if I will use that word, and also deny them freedom to move within that area, deny them freedom of access, I mean, moving assets from the borders to upland to come and mount some of these brazen attacks. And we also know that the Boko Haram is also being linked with these bandits. You know, so the effort that should be put in the Northwest should be equal as, you know, same effort that we put in Northeast. The Northwest is, it has spread into North Central. Before you know it, you might see some incursions, deep incursions down south.
Other parts of
it has to be a holistic operation to you know, launch operation within this Northwest state adjoining Niger Republic and within themselves.
So still on the rescue confidence, you know, you talked about how the SEALs or the American soldiers came into the country, you know, to pick up. I mean, we've been having collaborations, trainings, and all of that between the Nigerian Army and the U.S. Army. So what have we been learning if we can't conduct something similar in our own country?
So, first of all, you have to understand the approach to security the Nigerian state has. I told a journalist the other day that we despite the large concentration of military installations in Kaduna State, I mean, it has the highest number of military installations in the state. You simply do not expect them to act by the very reason that the Nigerian security architecture is tailored towards regime security and not national security. The foundations of the Nigerian army was tilted towards protection for the colonial administration. So when we gained independence, it did not change. So the Nigerian security services are likelier to act if there's a threat, a protest that they deem as a threat to national regime security than to national security. So the thing is, we can send everybody we have in the military to learn, collaborate, do whatever we want with our foreign allies and everything. But at the end, until we have a shift from that, it's not really going to work. And in terms of rescue, we have to factor in the military's previous operations in that particular regard. He was talking about launching an offensive to either capture or to subdue the terrorists. We had such offensive in September last year. The military shut down telecommunications in the region. The state government supported by issuing lockdowns, markets, businesses, everything was closed. What happened? What the military simply did was that they did an operation at the superficial level, which did barely enough to scratch the surface, which means they only went after the terrorists they could see. They're staging areas where the forests he mentioned, Sububu, Rugu, and the rest of them. What did they do? The army could not get there. So they simply relied on the Air Force, intelligence and everything to bomb the forest. And when they were doing that bombing, it was simply not every terrorist they killed. There were some other people that relocated. So the military relented. So at some point early this year, there was talk that Bello Toji has moved his headquarters into Kwara State. What were the police doing? Nothing they were doing. The military could not respond. So at the end of 4 weeks, the military simply declared victory and packed up. What happened? The police was not equipped to handle the places they were liberated. It did not take long for the terrorists to return. So if you're talking about any large-scale military offensive, you should be looking at sustainability. The military will not be there all the time. When they do their offensive, they return to their barracks, right? So who will be there to maintain the peace? The police. Is the police well equipped enough to handle these things? Last year, the NSCDC came out to say that about 80% of Nigerian public schools are unsafe. So what was their plan? To send NSCDC or the NSCD officers to guard these schools. What has happened? We have not really seen any progress. Many schools in the north have remained closed. So in each military program or each security approach or each solution we find ourselves in, we should be thinking long term. Is this solution going to last? Is it going to work? Or we're going to be sucked back in after a few days? These are the issues we have to start talking about today.
Well, let me bring Idele as well. Idele, so just in wrapping up, of course, looking at the rescue effort, still, what do you think can be done? What tactic do you think can be used? Be it the deployment of technology, the deployment of force, or the deployment of diplomacy, or even ransom, which would you think would be the most potent in this regard?
The truth is, an over-reliance on military capabilities to deal with insecurity in the northwestern part of the country will be grossly insufficient because the military are usually overstretched. We don't have enough boots on ground to cover all the trouble spots around the country. So you can't have a solely military solution to banditry and terrorism in the northwestern part of the country. And I added terrorism intentionally because there are elements of terrorism now in the northwestern part of the country. And so what needs to happen are a combination of things, which is, of course, Confidence rightfully pointed that out. We need to increase the capacity of the Nigerian police to respond to internal security challenges. At the moment, it looks like we have completely outsourced that responsibility to the military, and that for me is grossly irresponsible. The Nigerian police must be properly resourced, must be properly trained, and must be properly equipped to respond to internal security situations. That's the first thing that needs to happen. The second thing that needs to happen is that clearly the terrorists operating within these areas in the northwestern part of the country are terrorists and bandits that have a perfect understanding of the geography of that terrain. So what needs to happen is that there has to be some sort of a recruitment policy that reflects local content, where you have military and police officers and intelligence officers who come from those communities, who understand the geography of those communities to also help in combating the crime in those particular communities. Thirdly, there needs to be an economic solution to some of the challenges there. If we don't lift the living conditions of the people living in many of these communities, they are always going to be susceptible to crime. Many of those communities have been completely abandoned and forgotten by government. No hospitals, no schools, no court systems, no police stations. The living conditions in these communities have to improve. And if we do all of these things together and have a complete Marshall Plan, then maybe we may begin to see some progress in the northwestern part of the country. But if we leave it solely to military capabilities, I'm not sure that we are going to see the end of this insecurity in a long time to come.
Well, I hope that we do see that in the very nearest future, and hopefully all of this would be brought to an end. But I have to say thank you for joining us on the program, Ideally. You joined us via Zoom from Lagos. Thanks once again.
Thank you.
Of course. Thanks to you as well, Namdi. Thanks to you as well, Makari, for joining us on the program and sharing your thoughts. And hopefully, all of the solutions you proffered will be put in place. And of course, this will be brought to an end. But that's where we are. That's the show as well today. I'm Victor Matthias, and would leave you with the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. This week's most viewed videos kicks off with the presentation of a PDP presidential nomination form to River State Governor Nyesom Wike by a support group.
They know that it will no longer be business as a... There must be transparent election.
It is followed by Channels Television's animated video of how bandits attacked a train plying the busy Kaduna-Abuja rail line. Third is a passenger from the train narrating his ordeal during the attack.
By road we are not safe, by train we are not safe. So the thing is getting hard. And me, I saw these people with my eyes when they come in. They resemble, they are not Nigerians at all.
Second spot sees the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, vowing to punish the perpetrators of the attack.
What I like to assure Nigerians is that those who indeed were responsible for this dastardly act will be punished and will be brought to justice.
Wild and first is another Nigerian who narrated how he narrowly escaped being killed or kidnapped by bandits during the attack.
I didn't even know it was gunshot because I don't think I've heard gunshot before. It was just some loud stuff. And then the people next to us were like, go down, it's gunshot. So my friend here, Abida, she actually pushed me down. She pushed me down. We now went down and then covered our head and we didn't really come up.